Hey guys, Seth and CHYNA CHO here from Jump Ship. We're going to talk about two topics really quick today. First one being kind of the master's outlook on training. So you've been training for how many years now?
I started CrossFit in 2009.
2009. I actually started working out in 2008 and still have never competed. So
Really?
that's how lame I am with fitness.
I started competing like 2 months after I started.
So we have very different
Yes.
paths. So you've been competing the whole time, and I've been watching people compete the whole time.
Perfect.
So we have a lot of know-how between that. So as you kind of transition now from being a CrossFit Games champion on a team, many-time individual athlete, now you're kind of shifting into the Masters division. Is there anything about your training that you think you're going to change, or any advice you'd give to somebody who's in the same shoes as you?
Yeah, I mean, now that we've moved to Hawaii, I definitely have more time in my real life, but I don't have as much like driven time in my like competition life because I've been doing it for a lot longer. And I also know that the tests are a little bit different for someone in the 35 plus age group than it is for like an individual. So I know that I need to refocus how I train and not necessarily do 10 things at 80%. I'm better off doing 1 to 2 things at 100% because that's what's going to be asked of me in a competition setting.
So that kind of goes back to like sort of the whole methodology behind Jump Ship programming, which is one of the reasons why we kind of thought this was going to work so well. Like less, focusing a lot more on doing less really, really well, basically. Yeah. And because doing more just doesn't give you a chance to recover. It doesn't really help you. You've done so much over the years that you're not trying to fill in the cracks anywhere. No. You're trying to just like maintain and get better at the things you'll be tested on in this sort of competition. And things that change for you is like, so people are competing to get to a semifinal, to get to the games. You're now training for an online qualifier to get to the games, which is different in a lot of ways.
Very
I think.
much so.
So so what kind of things change for that?
I mean, when you do an online qualifier, you're not going to be doing 5 different workouts in one day. You're going to be doing 2.
Right.
If anything, it'll be over the course of 2 to 3 days, and they're normally 5 to 6 tests. One of them being like a strength-oriented test or strength endurance-oriented test. So essentially, you have 5 in 3 days. So really honing in on good quality and a high intensity for, again, 1 to 2 things per day is going to play into effect. Versus at the CrossFit Games, when you're sometimes doing 6 events in one day, you have to train for that.
And at semifinals and CrossFit Games, there's really no movements that are off the table and no equipment that's off the table because they're going to provide that for you. But in a in-gym setting for an online qualifier, we can better predict what would be expected.
Absolutely.
And you can train for it.
You're not going to get like a torque tank thrown at you in an online qualifier because not everyone has that.
There's even though people have sandbags, it's probably not a 150-pound sandbag coming at you, but at a semifinal or games, it would be. So you can really hone in on the things that we can expect you to have to do really well at. And I think that's one of the ways that you will be kind of revamping some of the sections of the Masters program for people who follow Jump Ship.
I'm really fortunate that I've kind of like gotten to do competition in all realms and been dabbled into a lot of things. Like I've done an open announcement, I've been on the demo team now. I've kind of gotten to see, I've been on a team, I've been as an individual, I've kind of done I've commentated.
You do it all
these kinds of things. So I kind of feel very fortunate in all the little insights that I've gotten. So I'm really excited to help out, share, collaborate, and do all those kinds of things.
So one of the big changes I guess it's not a big change, but one of the changes when we sat down and talked about how to better improve the Masters program that we were going to make is, we know that basically 35-year-old division, 35 to 39, you basically have to be a legit individual at a high level.
Absolutely.
Like nearly
you just have
elite
your own
level.
category now.
That's right. You just have a special little group that you're competing against as opposed to the whole field. But the movements are the same that you'd be expected to do.
The weights are the same.
The weights are super challenging. The only thing is you're still on an online qualifier instead of going to an event. But having said that, those things kind of go together, and you still don't want to just train for an online qualifier and go to the games and not have the ability to swim and sandbag and pegboard and all that stuff that you would expect. So there's that. So then the first level of Masters really that needs some decent modification would be 40 to 54.
Yeah.
So that'll be a new division, well, not new division, a new scale, so to speak, of the program, 40 to 54. That'll be the kind of the first step when we start seeing some modifications. And what kind of stuff would be in there, you think?
I would say just a little bit of weights, like when you see a snatch ladder, maybe it ends for 185 for the women, we drop it to 175 instead of ending at 265 for the men. maybe drop it to 245, just like very minimal things, not huge differences in the gymnastic skill or, you know, regular skill, but I would just say a little bit on the weights, maybe a tiny bit on the volume, but other than that, it would be fairly similar as well.
And then the last division is 55 plus, and we actually had a really good conversation about like how different the expectations are now for 55 plus athletes. So what kind of stuff like?
So Freddie, my husband, is 55. He's now in that category. So he basically does women RX weights or a little bit less. Their skills have gone down significantly. It rarely calls for a muscle up, handstand walk. Handstand push-ups are always to a riser, or they do dumbbell push press, but the volume is the same. There is no scale for that. So I feel like the old traditional open style workouts and open style training is very much the way that a 55 plus athlete should train.
Your engine just has to be at a high level. You have to
barbell
just
cycling has to be great. Like you got to be real good at like Randy.
Yeah,
Grace
exactly.
Unbroken at 65 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, being willing to suffer.
So there you go. So it really does change as you get kind of moving through those masters groups to what your priority should be for your training, and that sort of stuff is going to be reflected in the program. She's going to start taking over as the head of programming for the masters starting in December. Marcus Adams will still be in there helping out with the masters as well as myself and others too. We have that going on. Yeah, and we kind of touched on it already, but just kind of want to circle around to like the next point is really like overall, whether you're following the 90 or the masters, like buying into a program that is really about, like we said before, doing less better and focusing more on bringing your intensity up on the, you know, the singular strength piece you hit each day, the one really tough metcon, and then maybe you have some skills or an accessory or finish or whatever that kind of ends it. And that sort of fits in that 90-minute window that we really try to build people each day, and how that works for you compared to the days of doing 5 or 6 training pieces over the course of 2 to 3, 4 hours a day.
I mean, you end up being very, very conservative if you have to do a workout 5 different times, because if you go out too hot, you're just suffering for 4 more rounds. If you don't go hard for 3 rounds, you still end up getting tired from doing 600 double unders before you get to round 4, or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, there's obviously benefits and no benefits to doing a lot of volume, but I personally, especially with where I'm at and being 35, less is definitely more, and I think I'm going to benefit a lot from that, and a lot of people will.
And I think even the younger group that could benefit from it, you kind of were talking about like almost gauging the fact that you have 5 other pieces to do later. So now your first piece, you're really not going to sell out, put the effort you need into it, because you know you have to do more. So you're not going to make yourself completely suffer and bring intensity, knowing you have to be able to pace yourself through a 3 or 4 hour session. And then on the other side of that, even if you do start like kind of casually and go to the end, you're still going to be tired by the time you get to the end. You're not going to have energy left to put intensity into it. So no matter how you try to plan it out, if you have too much on your plate in a training session, there is no place to insert the intensity that makes the biggest progress and get you
And I
fit.
can also speak to that on a personal level. I've trained like that for a long time, or the last few years. And my semifinal ended with Gretel, which is a full-out sprint.
Right.
Like, you just got to send it. It's 3 minutes, right? Well, it took me 3 minutes. Some people were faster than that. A lot of people were faster
3 minutes
than that.
is pretty good, though.
But 3 minutes, and I just didn't really know how to move fast. And same with Friendly Friend. That was a 5-minute workout-ish, again, in the shorter time domain, and that was why I didn't make it to the games, because I just didn't know how to, like, set my soul on fire. Because I'm so used to pacing it. Don't get me wrong, I did fantastic on the 15, 20, 25-minute workouts because I know how to pace, but there has to be a balance, and I just have been so off balance. And now those workouts are becoming a lot more popular, those Gretel, fast output, you know what I mean? Because they're exciting to watch. People don't want to watch a 30-minute workout. People want to watch a 3-minute workout where it's go, 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 go. And so, I mean, you benefit a lot from high intensity if you train that way.
But I also think like the definition of high intensity is kind of interesting, because we talk about like the short workouts and just like head through the wall, crush it, like, and that, you know, set your soul on fire, that's high intensity. But also when you have a 25-minute workout or a 5-rounder that you need to pace, you can have high intensity for something like that, which just means you understand exactly how to move at your red line the whole time, or just shy of your red line, I should say, which is a whole skill in itself, that if you are trying to do too many things or too much of that, you don't have time to figure out, you know, how many touch and go reps do I
You're just
hold
trying to
here?
survive
Right.
the entire
You're,
session.
you're in a panic the whole
Yes.
time trying to get through it, as opposed to making a plan and coming just shy of that red line and holding these really ridiculous paces, which allow you to make progress faster. So that high intensity thing can be applied to something that's long distance, short distance, whatever. It's just knowing how to push just shy of collapse, essentially.
Right.
So I think you get a lot of that over doing less and focusing on those sessions.
Agreed.
So yeah, anyway, that's just a real quick chat. You'll hear a lot more from CHYNA in the near future. Pretty pumped to have you. Very excited. So anyway, guys, if you have questions, as always, reach out, and you'll be hearing more from us very soon.